Here's something most remote workers figure out where to live, but get completely backwards. They search for the cheapest place they can find with fast internet and call it done. But the people who actually love where they ended up, they picked their neighborhood based on how it actually fits their day-to-day lives and work. And I see this all the time with relocation buyers. They start by asking, where can I get the most house for the money? But after we talk through how they actually work, where they want to walk, and what their day looks like Monday through Friday, the search usually changes pretty quickly. Pittsburgh in 2026 has some of the best remote worker neighborhoods in the country, and most people on those lists have never even heard of them. Today, I'm going to show you exactly which Pittsburgh neighborhoods offer the best combination of home office space, community energy, outdoor access, and real value for the money. So let's get into it. But before we talk about specific neighborhoods, let me explain what I'm actually looking for when I evaluate a place for a remote worker, because it differs from what a typical commuter needs, and getting this wrong leads people to buy in the wrong spot and then feel stuck for 6 months later. I have been working in Western Pennsylvania real estate for years, helping all kinds of buyers land in the right place. And for remote workers, they have a very specific wish list that not every neighborhood can deliver. When a remote worker comes to me, there are 5 things that matter most to them. In my experience, remote workers are usually more thoughtful about neighborhood fit than almost any other buyer group because their home is not just where they sleep. It's their office, their lunch break, their gym substitute, their quiet space, and sometimes their whole social world during the week. The first one is home size and layout. You need actual space for a dedicated home office, not a corner of the bedroom or the kitchen, a real room with a door. Pittsburgh's older housing stock actually works in your favor here because you often get more square footage and more rooms per dollar than you would in a newer build market. The key is finding the right neighborhoods where that space is available at a price that makes sense. The second one is internet reliability. This sounds obvious, but it is genuinely the deal breaker for remote workers, and it varies widely by neighborhood and provider coverage. Before you buy anywhere in Western Pennsylvania, confirm fiber or high-speed cable availability at the specific address, not the general area, the specific address. I always tell buyers not to assume internet service just because the listing says high speed available. I have had situations where one side of the street had better options than the other, so this is one of those details that you verify before you get emotionally attached to the house. The third one is daytime energy. This might surprise you. When you work from home, you're in that neighborhood all day long, not just in the evenings and on the weekends. You want coffee shops to work from when you need a change of scenery. You want an easy walk or a short drive to get lunch without getting into the car for 20 minutes. The vibe of a neighborhood during a Tuesday morning matters just as much as what it's like on a Saturday night. This is also why I encourage buyers to tour the neighborhood at the time of day that they will actually be living in it. A street can feel completely different at 10:30 on a Tuesday than it does during a busy weekend open house. The fourth one is outdoor access. According to Buffer's State of Remote Work report, the single biggest reason remote workers choose where they live is the flexibility remote work gives them to pick their location in the first place, with 75% of respondents citing that a primary benefit. And once they have that freedom, outdoor access and green space consistently rank among the top factors driving the specific neighborhood they choose. When your commute is 10 steps from your bedroom to your desk, the quality of your outdoor environment becomes your mental health lifeline. Parks, trails, rivers, hills, all of it matters more than people realize until they actually are in it. The fifth one is a strong sense of community. Remote workers are statistically more likely to experience isolation than office workers. Neighborhoods where people actually know each other, where they are community events, and local businesses where your staff know your name and a real sense of belonging. Those are the ones where remote workers thrive long term. Run any neighborhood through those 5 filters and you will know pretty quickly whether it's a fit. That's exactly what we're going to do right now. All right, so those are the 5 things that matter. Now, let me show you which Pittsburgh neighborhoods are delivering all of them in 2026. We're going to start inside the city and then look at the surrounding counties because some of the best remote worker setups in the whole region are a little further out than most people think to look. Let's start inside Pittsburgh city limits because this is where the daytime energy and community feel tend to be the strongest. When I'm working with out-of-state buyers, Squirrel Hill is one of those neighborhoods that often makes sense very quickly once the buyer understands the lifestyle. It gives you that walkable, established Pittsburgh feel without feeling like you're disconnected from parks, universities, hospitals, and the rest of the East End. Squirrel Hill is the first one that I always bring up, and for a good reason. This is one of the most genuinely livable neighborhoods neighborhoods in the entire city. It has a dense, accessible commercial strip along Forbes and Murray Avenues with coffee shops, restaurants, grocery stores, and local businesses all within walking distance of most homes. You have Frick Park right there, one of the best urban parks in western Pennsylvania with miles of hiking trails. According to local MLS data, median prices in Squirrel Hill have been in the $475,000 to $650,000 range, putting it at the premium end of the Pittsburgh market. Finding a move-in ready family-sized home here for under $500,000 is generally difficult in 2026. That's the real number, and it matters for your budget planning. For a remote worker who wants that neighborhood energy and outdoor access without sacrificing anything, Squirrel Hill delivers. The housing stock has many larger, older homes with the square footage and room count a home office setup needs. Shadyside is also a great example of why budget conversations need to happen early. A buyer may love the lifestyle, but once we separate condos from larger homes with true office space, the price expectations can change fast. Shadyside is the neighborhood that I point to for remote workers who want that slightly more urban, coffee shop forward lifestyle. The business district on Walnut Street has a high density of cafes and restaurants, making it genuinely easy to step out of your home office and be somewhere lively within a few minutes. According to Redfin data, median prices in Shadyside have climbed to the $550,000 to $800,000 range and above for row homes and single-family homes that we're talking about. You can still find a one-bedroom condo for less, but the kind of home a remote worker actually needs with multiple rooms and a dedicated office space is firmly in that premium range here. The housing mix here includes a lot of row homes and older single-family homes with the room count that you need for a dedicated workspace. The community energy in Shadyside on a Tuesday morning is exactly what remote workers describe when they say that they want to feel like they are in a real place and not just working in a suburb somewhere. Point Breeze is one that I like to explain carefully because it's a quieter but isolated area. For buyers who want a calmer work-from-home environment while still being close to the East End, it can be a really strong fit. Point Breeze is one of those areas that catches people off guard. It sits right between Squirrel Hill and East Liberty. It has a quieter residential feel than either of its neighbors, and yet it's an extremely short distance from the Carnegie Museum campus, Frick Park, and the businesses along Penn Avenue in Garfield and East Liberty. According to local MLS data, median prices in Point Breeze have been running in the $575,000 to $750,000 range and above. Remote workers have been specifically driving demand here because of those larger homes and bigger lots, which have pushed prices up significantly from where they were even a few years ago. The homes in Point Breeze tend to be larger and the lots tend to be bigger than in many comparable Pittsburgh neighborhoods, which matters a lot when you're trying to set up a real home office rather than a laptop on a kitchen table. Those three are strong inside the city, but let me tell you something that surprises many remote workers who are just starting to look at Pittsburgh. Some of the best neighborhoods for the remote work lifestyle are actually just outside the city in the surrounding counties, and they come with a very different price point. Mount Lebanon is one of those communities where buyers often understand the appeal the minute that they drive through it. The sidewalks, the business district, the school's reputation, and the established homes all work together, but the competition and pricing need to be taken seriously. The thing about being a remote worker is that you are not tied to being close to downtown. You can live wherever the neighborhood best fits your lifestyle. And when you open that up, a few communities in the surrounding counties become really compelling. This is where I see buyers really start comparing the full monthly picture, not just the sale price. Taxes, commute flexibility, school district, space, and lifestyle all matter, especially when someone has the freedom to live farther from downtown. Mount Lebanon in southern Allegheny County consistently ranks among the best places to live in the entire Pittsburgh region. According to local MLS data, median prices there have been running in the $425,000 to $600,000 range. Low inventory and the high demand for that school district have pushed what used to be entry-level family homes well into the mid $400,000 range at a minimum. What makes it work for remote workers specifically is the combination of genuinely accessible downtown along Washington Road with coffee shops and restaurants, one of the most respected public school systems in western Pennsylvania, which matters if you have kids, and a strong community identity with regular events and a tight civic culture, and the kind of older housing stock that gives you multiple bedrooms, a dedicated office space, and real square footage. Mount Lebanon has a neighborhood feel that it's hard to manufacture and impossible to fake. People stay there for decades because because they genuinely love it. Peters Township in Washington County is where I send remote workers who want newer construction, more space, and a lower overall cost of living than comparable communities in Allegheny County. According to local MLS data, median prices in Peters Township have been running in the $550,000 to $850,000 range and above. That reflects the newer construction and the premium build quality that you're getting. Washington County overall carries a lower tax burden than comparable Allegheny County communities, which matters when you're building a long-term monthly budget. That said, Peters Township specifically carries some of the highest millage rates in Washington County. The bottom line is that your actual tax bill is often still more favorable than what you would see on a similar home in Allegheny County, partly because Washington County's property assessments have historically run lower. And with the 2025 millage increase in Allegheny County, that gap has actually widened. Even in Peters Township having higher internal rates for Washington County, the overall savings on a $600,000 home compared to a place like Mount Lebanon can be thousands of dollars a year. For remote workers considering their long-term monthly budget, the border hop to Washington County is more popular than ever. Cranberry Township in Butler County is one of the most remote workers specifically keep landing in. According to local Redfin data, Cranberry Township has been one of the fastest growing communities in western Pennsylvania over the past decade, and that growth has pushed median prices into the $450,000 to $650,000 range. Massive demand from corporate relocations and remote professionals has made it one of the hottest markets in western Pennsylvania and significantly raised the floor for newer builds. The concentration of corporate campuses, medical facilities, and professional services companies in the Cranberry corridor means that even for remote workers who occasionally need to go into the office, they often do not have to go far. The housing stock trends newer, which again helps on the home office and internet reliability front. And the Butler County tax structure is generally more favorable than that of many Allegheny County municipalities. Okay, let me stop here for a second. We've covered the 5 things that matter for remote workers, the best city neighborhoods, and the suburban communities that offer a different lifestyle at a different price point. What I want you to hold on to so far is this. The best place for a remote worker is not the cheapest place. It's the place that makes you feel like you made the right choice every single morning when you sit down to work, because you'll be there all day. I always pay attention to whether a buyer can realistically take calls from that room. If the office is right off the kitchen, next to a playroom, or in a spot with constant household noise, it may not function the way that it looks like that it will in many photos. If you're seriously considering a move to western Pennsylvania and want all the real data in one place, I put together a completely free Pittsburgh relocation guide. It's got neighborhood insights, top employers, schools, cost of living, all of it. You can download it in the description in the top pinned comment. Totally free. For anyone new here, I'm Diane McConaghy. I am a Pittsburgh-based realtor and relocation specialist, and my team works with buyers and sellers every day throughout Allegheny, Washington, Beaver, and Butler counties. We love helping remote workers find their right spot here. Now let me tell you about 2 more things that most remote workers often overlook their shopping, and that can either make or break the whole setup. This is one of those practical details that can save a buyer from frustration later. It's not glamorous, but asking about outlets, panel capacity, lighting, and internet before writing an offer is exactly the kind of due diligence that protects you. This is something that most buyer agents don't walk you through, and I think it's one of the most practical things that I can tell you. When you are a remote worker touring a home, you need to run a specific mental test in every room before deciding whether the layout actually works for you. The first question is there a room with a door that could be used as a dedicated office? Not a loft, not a nook, not the kitchen, not the bedroom. A room with a door that closes. When you are on a video call, a door is not optional. It's a professional necessity. Many of Pittsburgh's older homes have 4 or 5 bedrooms, which means even if you're not using all of them for sleeping, you can still dedicate one entirely to your workspace without giving anything else up. But here's the caveat that most agents won't tell you. Those beautiful older rooms in Squirrel Hill, Shadyside, and Point Breeze often have very few outlets and inadequate closet space for storing equipment. Before you fall in love with a room as your future office, check whether the home has been updated to 200 amp electrical service. Many Pittsburgh area homes built before 1960 still have 100 amp panels, which aren't enough to reliably power multiple monitors, a standing desk, external storage drives, and the rest of a modern remote work setup without tripping breakers. A 200 amp upgrade is doable, but it costs money. Know what you're working with before you close. The second question is, where are the outlets, and what is the natural light situation in that room? A room that faces north with one outlet and no overhead lighting is going to drain your energy by 2 in the afternoon. Look for rooms with east or south facing windows for good morning light, and at least 2 or 3 outlets on separate walls, and ceiling light or good clearance for a floor lamp setup. These sound like small things, but they matter enormously over the course of a full workday, every day. The third question is, what does the internet infrastructure look like at this specific address? According to the FCC's 2025 broadband data, fiber optic availability in the Pittsburgh metro has expanded significantly, particularly in Allegheny County and the Cranberry Township corridor in Butler County. And the good news for those rural gaps in Washington County and Beaver counties is that Pennsylvania's final BEAD proposal worth $711 million in federal broadband funding was officially approved in February 2026. That means those last rural coverage gaps are finally on the clock to be filled over the next couple of years. But here's the reality check. Federal approval and fiber in the ground at your specific address are two different things. Construction takes time, so the rule still stands. Check the provider coverage map for the exact address that you're considering before you assume that you're covered. Do not let a great neighborhood fail you because of an internet situation that could have been verified in 5 minutes. I have found that people who relocate well are not just buying a house, they're buying a weekly routine, the grocery run, the walk after work, the place to grab lunch, the park that they use when they need a reset. Those little things become the difference between liking a house and loving where you live. The fourth question is storage. Remote workers often have equipment, monitors, cameras, lighting gear, external drives, printers, and filing systems. Where is that going to live? A home that looks great as a show house with everything cleared out may not have anywhere to actually put your professional setup. Ask yourself where that gear goes before you fall in love with the photos. The house itself needs to work for your setup. But the last thing I want to cover is something that remote workers often realize only after being somewhere for a few months: the importance of having a real community outside your work hours, because that is what determines whether you actually want to stay long term. Here's something that almost every remote worker that I've worked with eventually tells me. The neighborhood they love is not the one with the best internet or the most coffee shops. It's the one where they actually feel like they belong somewhere. For my relocation clients, I often suggest narrowing the search only after they have experienced a few different neighborhood personalities. Pittsburgh can vary block by block and community by community, so the right fit is not always obvious from online research alone. When you work from home, you lose the built-in social structure that an office provides: the small talk, the lunch groups, the casual connections that happen just by being around other people. That structure has to come from somewhere, and in a remote work lifestyle, it comes from your neighborhood. So the question is not just whether this neighborhood has things to do. The question is, does this neighborhood have the kind of energy and community where I'm going to actually want to leave my desk and be a part of something? Squirrel Hill's community identity is tight and multi-generational. Mount Lebanon has one of the strongest civic cultures in the region, with genuinely active community organizations and a downtown that functions as a real gathering place. Shadyside has the foot traffic and the social scene energy that makes it easy to become a regular somewhere quickly, which for a remote worker is one of the fastest ways to start feeling at home. Cranberry Township has grown so fast that it now has a real variety of community programming and local gathering spots that newer suburbs often lack. According to the National Association of Realtors 2025 profile of home buyers, the top factors driving buyer satisfaction are quality of the neighborhood and proximity to friends and family, with roughly 60% of buyers citing neighborhood quality as a primary reason that they feel good about where they landed. For remote workers specifically, that community factor is amplified because you're spending more time in your neighborhood than the average buyer. You're living it fully, not just sleeping there. So when you're touring neighborhoods, do this. Come back on a weekday morning. Walk around at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday and see how the neighborhood feels when it's not showing off for the weekend. Is there a coffee shop with regulars? Are people walking dogs and saying hello? Is there a sense that people actually know each other? That's the test that matters the most for a remote worker, and it's the one that you cannot get from a listing photo or a Google map. If this gave you a clearer picture of where Pittsburgh remote workers are actually thriving in 2026, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. We put out real, practical Pittsburgh real estate content every single week. And if you're not sure of which of these communities actually fits the way that you work and live, that is exactly where my team and I can help. We can talk through your daily routine, your budget, your work setup, and your lifestyle so that you're not guessing from a map or a few listing photos. When you're ready to find your right spot, I want to be the person who helps you get. Reach out to me directly using the contact information right below this video. Whether you're moving from out of state, relocating within the region, or just starting to think seriously about making a change, my team and I work with buyers every day throughout Allegheny, Washington, Beaver, and Butler counties, and we will help you find a home that actually fits the way that you live and work. Also, grab the free Pittsburgh Relocation Guide in the description too. It covers neighborhoods, employers, school districts, and cost of living breakdowns, saving you hours of research. And when you're done here, watch my next video. I rank Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania's best and worst places to live in 2026, the tier list. I go through the whole Pittsburgh metro, neighborhood by neighborhood, and rank them honestly. If you want the full picture of where to live and where to be careful, that's the one to watch next. I'm Diane McConaghy, Pittsburgh Realtor and Relocation Guide, and I'll see you in the next one.